All right, we're back on. Defendants present, represented by counsel. Everybody's back in place. All right. As to the opening the door, the court's not going to permit getting into the evidence that has been excluded. If defense does want to follow up on the investigation, you're welcome to ask if there were any additional documents or any additional documents that came in. It didn't sound like he went and did additional work, so just so that I understand the scope.
Well, I think what these documents reflect and what his reports reflect is that he was interacting with the medical examiner's office still, that he was interacting with the crime lab still, and that he was also working with the GBI to obtain information and pass information along to them, and he was interacting with subpoenas about these gateway records through the coroner's office. So he was interacting with individuals, with particular agencies, and he was receiving documents and information before the GBI got involved and then after the GBI got involved. So there's several pieces of information in there, Judge. You know what I want to get into, and I guess you would just be telling me I can identify the agency, I can identify the place the documents came from, or I can't. Those kind of things.
And yes and no. I mean, the court's excluded certain evidence, and so no, we can't. For example, even if you're not going to get into the gateway documents, we're not going to talk about gateway.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about the evidence that's been excluded in the case.
So I can't say even medical records.
No, that's getting into the evidence in the case.
I just want to be clear.
You're talking about Arbery's medical records.
Gateway.
Those have been excluded.
Right? So I can't get into that. The lab/toxicology received reports back from toxicology from the Georgia Crime Lab. They're still interacting with the Georgia Crime Lab.
At this point, I've not heard of any other way that they're coming in, and they've been excluded based on the court's order. And this has not opened the door to them.
I understand. So I can't say that he received documents from the Georgia Crime Lab.
What other documents are there?
Those. Yeah.
It's just the toxicology reports.
I'm sorry, Jim.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding what we're talking about. The court's, I don't want to go back and figure out all of the specific rulings again and how they would relate directly to these documents.
So
just to be clear, because I'm trying to make sure there's no ambiguity in the court's order. So the court's order exists. You're now asking me what you can put in.
Right.
What I keep saying is the court's ordered.
And I want to be so specific that the record reflects what I'm not allowed to do. And I remember the court's order that said we could not get in the toxicology records. That would be the blood alcohol and the THC. And you said we can't go into that. Now what I'm asking is, can I at least say that he received documents from the crime lab?
Are there any other documents?
Let's see. He got toxicology and second toxicology. No, so if we say what the documents are, no. I guess the short answer
because
is
right now
no.
the documents are irrelevant, so it wouldn't matter either way. So the court's deemed them irrelevant. So
Okay.
no.
And so I can't even say that he interacted with the crime lab.
I'm asking counsel that under the court's order that we not go there, because I understand the only thing he could be referring to is evidence that has been excluded.
Well, we can get around it, but I hear what the court is saying. So I can't inform the jury that he interacted with the Georgia Crime Lab. And he also interacted with the coroner's office.
What was? I don't understand that comment. We can get around that.
Well,
what the court,
what
get around
I'm
the court's
suggesting,
ruling. I don't understand.
what I'm suggesting is the court doesn't want the jury to know that there are blood toxicology records about alcohol or THC. But I certainly could say crime lab records. I just want to show that this gentleman is doing work with state agencies about this case.
I think you missed what I said. No, you're not going to get into that because if the only crime lab records are excluded evidence, then no. Then it's just not relevant.
I got that. I got it. I just want to make sure that our record is clear about that. And so that's a no on receiving toxicology on 317. That's a no. Receiving toxicology on 7/14/20. That's a no. Receiving gateway records from the coroner or giving records to the coroner, just that he's even interacting with the coroner, or that he's interacting with the coroner on 312, and that he's interacting with the coroner on 529. Will the court allow me to ask him or have him state, yes, I continue to interact with the coroner on 312, and I continue to interact with the coroner on 529?
The court's ruled. I would suggest that the simple way for defense counsel to avoid violating the court's order is to simply say that there was some additional work done. He talked to some additional agencies and got some additional documents.
Okay. Additional work, additional agencies, and additional documents. That's what I'll do.
And I will be clear about it because I heard in there a statement that made me concerned when you said there's a way to get around that. I am not going to engage on prior orders that have been very clear. And so in order to avoid that, and based on where this is going, that's what I'm going to leave counsel to.
All right. So
And to perfect the record, of course, we are joining in this, but there is also one other piece of work that this investigator did, and that is that he is the individual who carried the heart blood from the autopsy to the crime lab for toxicology. That's just to complete the record of all the things that the court has ruled cannot come in, but would have otherwise been responsive to the state's question.
Okay, and then Judge, the one I missed is on April 1st, he received the autopsy report from Dr. Donahue. I don't think that violates the court's order to say.
Dr. Donahue's going to be testifying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I can tell the jury he got the autopsy report. I won't get into toxicology or won't get into the medical records from Gateway. Just that he received the autopsy report on April 1st.
Sounds like that's not violative of the court's order.
Perfect. All right, I'm ready. Thank you, Judge.
We're good? Yes. Okay. All right. Welcome back. You can. Well, the jury's coming in. You can stay standing if you want. They're right back. I remind you that you're under oath.
Yes, sir.
All right, we got everybody. Yep.
We need to instruct the witness, Your Honor, that I'm asking very general questions that are not going to include details so that we don't get worried here.
Well, why not ask leading questions? Because that would prevent anything from happening.
And I wouldn't ask a question that requires a response that violates the court's order, particularly after the discussion we've had, because although there may be an inadvertent disclosure under these circumstances, the court's not going to look at inadvertent disclosure.
Yeah, I'm going to
Maybe
say
in the
exactly
way-
what the court said. Like I said, I just didn't know if we wanted to inform the witness how we were limiting his testimony. I'd be happy to do it to avoid the problem.
Or let the state do it.
No, I'll do it.
It's all right for a jury.
Thank you. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to proceed with the evidence. Mr. Sheffield.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Lowrey. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm Jason Sheffield. I represent Travis McMichael. We haven't spoken yet on
No,
this
sir.
case, have we?
No, sir.
Okay, but I have listened very carefully to your testimony and cross-examination, all that, and just want to bear down on a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, you are the lead investigator in this case. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a special designation that you have been given, which means sort of all information in this case is going to flow to you
Yes.
while you wear that designation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So in terms of doling out assignments or responsibilities, that is something that a lead investigator does.
Yes.
Once those things are completed, then you work to coordinate the receiving of all that information back to yourself,
Yes, sir.
right? Or then you review it, right?
Yes, sir.
And then that could cause you to make additional decisions on what to do next and who to tell to do those things.
Yes, sir.
It's sort of an honor to be the lead investigator. Comes with a lot of work, though, right?
Yeah. A lot of work.
A lot of work to that part. Okay. So in this particular case, how long after the shooting was it before you arrived on the scene?
I don't think very long, maybe 30 minutes to 2 hours, somewhere in there.
Okay, and when you got on scene, you began to do what a lead investigator does. You go around and you start talking to the officers on the scene to try to get an understanding of what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that point, you begin to formulate kind of a plan to say, all right, here's what we need to do, how we need to follow up on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And essentially, is it fair to say in your mind, at least within those first 30 minutes to an hour, you're trying to figure out who are these two gentlemen on the scene, Mr. Greg McMichael and Travis McMichael, right?
One of them, I was familiar with Mr. Greg McMichael just from him previously working.
Knew him previously, but you're trying to figure out what they're doing
Yes,
out
sir.
here on that day.
Yes, sir.
And you're also trying to understand what happened to the deceased.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're trying to figure out what their intent was that day, Mr. McMichael's in specific.
Yes, sir.
Right? And you're trying to figure out what was going on with the decedent on that day, Mr. Arbery.
Yes, sir.
What he was doing in the neighborhood, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, in this case, you assigned the interviews, did you not?
I did.
So you took on interviewing, as we now know, Mr. William Bryan, and you assigned interviews to be done to Greg McMichael as well as Travis McMichael.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Now, you were talking about with the state that right around March 5th of 2020 that the case kind of went inactive, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But that's not exactly 100% accurate because you still were involved in doing some work on the case.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah. You were involved in some, as I'll characterize it, additional work, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Working with additional Georgia state agencies,
Yes, sir.
right? And obtaining documents, right?
Yes, sir.
And didn't stop this work at March 5th. You continued in the month of March to do this kind of work, right?
I think so. I don't remember the times, but yeah.
Okay, but you also continued to do it into April,
Okay.
right?
Yes, sir. I guess.
Well, do you need to go back over your notes?
I do. I didn't want to interrupt you. Would you
No.
mind handing them to me? All I've got is the transcript. It's on the table there.
Okay, what about your reports and things like that?
I was told I couldn't bring anything up, so I didn't. I have nothing with me on this floor.
Do you have your reports here?
Upstairs on the third floor.
Okay, well, I'm happy to try to refresh your memory
Okay.
with the reports that I have of yours, unless the state wants to give you reports. Okay. I guess what we're after here, what I'm trying to understand is that, may I approach the witness, Your Honor? I asked the wrong person. I'm just going to show my reports. They have my notes on them. But you don't necessarily need to read my notes, but you can just take a look at the reports.
The last date I'm seeing on here, I don't see anything that goes into April. I see March 12th.
Okay. Yeah. And now I'm going to ask you to come forward. I'm going to show you these things. Just to show you the dates, and I don't want you to read out loud what anything is. I'm just going to show you dates.
And I just want to make sure that, because they're not being tendered down, we're not looking at, the jury's behind you.
Right. That's why I'm trying to block it
Okay,
and put them right here in front of me.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to show you these dates.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep.
Session. Done.
For that last one,
Well, we won't talk about what it is. I'm just showing you a date. You don't have to agree with it. I'm just going to show it to you.
yes, sir. Okay.
Okay? So just essentially, for purposes of dates, your involvement in the case continued into May and then into July. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, somewhat.
Somewhat. Okay. Now, in terms of what you did in the case, I want to be able to be very specific about it, okay?
Okay.
So I like to write things down.
All right.
All right. So in terms of the work that you did, it number one includes going to the scene, right? You're going to have to say yes if you
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
All right. Interviews of witnesses, yeah.
Yes.
Photographs. Agreed?
Yes.
All right. We're collecting clothing, right?
Not I.
But under your leadership
yes, sir.
as part of the investigation, right? To do analysis on clothing, on gun shells, shotgun shells,
Yes.
doing some
that
ballistics work.
they would have went, I think, to the GBI. That,
Right, but it's under your leadership that you consider that this has to get done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any kind of blood collection, right?
Yes.
All right. Videos from the neighborhood, that's something that you were interested in.
Yes.
Right?
Objection to mischaracterization, Judge. Mr. Lowry is saying that he didn't personally do any of this, and
Yeah.
Mr. Sheffield is making it look like he did.
As the lead detective in the case, we've established, I think, that you're directing people to do and collect various forms of evidence.
Yes.
Okay. Are these the things that you're directing people to do and collect? Videos from the neighborhood?
Not all the directions would have been from me. Some of it would have
Okay.
come from supervisors as well. Like the videos, I don't think I necessarily even had to ask for that. I think other investigators just kind of started chipping in and collecting everything that needed done.
But as you're the lead investigator, I guess then you would be aware that these things are being done.
Yes.
And you would then have looked at these things to determine what next steps to take.
Yes.
Okay. That would include obtaining records, just generally speaking.
Yes.
That would include obtaining CAD and 911 calls,
Yes.
cell phone data,
Yes.
any kind of social media, if relevant.
I don't remember any social media.
Cross that one off. We got the fibers,
Yes.
the white fibers that you talked about. We've got fingerprints
Yes.
that you did. We've got mapping, kind of mapping out of this interaction that took place on that day.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You actually went to 220 Satilla to do some investigation there as well,
Yes, sir.
right? You work with the ME's office, that would be the medical examiner, and the coroner, right?
Yes.
Okay. And neighborhood canvas. And so the neighborhood canvas is where you go around and you ask questions of all the neighbors to figure out if they know anything.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So this is what you did. You put the lead detective. Okay. All right. This is what you did. Have I missed anything in terms of the type of work that you did, generally speaking?
No, sir. I don't think so.
Okay. Very good. You were asked a lot of questions about Mr. Bryan's description of his interaction with Mr. Arbery. You call that?
Yes.
And just to note a little bit of what he was describing about his interaction, there was this one thing that you noted where he yells out, "Y'all got him." Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. There's nothing that Mr. Bryan told you that led you to believe that Travis or Greg even heard him say this,
That's correct.
or that there was any kind of communication with him about this, right?
Yes.
So if I put down here no communication, by T and G, you would agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. The time where he says that Robert Bryan says he changed direction and changed his angle. You recall that? I know he said that a couple
Several
of
times. Yes, sir.
I'm an old science major, so I use the delta for change and about the angle. Again, no communication with Travis or Greg about this thing.
Correct.
Okay. Talking about we're still in this particular area, and for a second time he steers or does some movement when Mr. Arbery goes and steps off the road, right? So if I say steer off road, again, no communication with Travis or Greg about that.
Correct.
Now, when he says that, again, Mr. Arbery was trying to get into the truck and he pulled away from him, do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Trying to get in, pulls away. Again, no communication with Travis or Greg about that.
Correct.
By communication, I mean no phone calls, no hand signals, nothing.
No, sir.
Essentially, then it's your understanding that Mr. Bryan says that Mr. Arbery begins to run up Holmes Road and he begins to then follow at that point. Do you recall that?
Yes.
All right, so we'll just call that up Holmes and follow. Again, no communication by Travis or Greg about that.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
All right. And then when he turns around, Mr. Bryan discusses, he's turning around, he's trying to back up, and he heads back in the other direction. So let's just call this turnaround on Holmes. Again, no evidence that he was in communication with Travis or Greg.
No, sir.
You were asked a question about the white fibers on the truck.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they were on that sort of plastic strip area.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to put back up Exhibit 214 for you to take a look at. talking about these white fibers
Yes, sir.
up here. We have a little bit more of a close-up around here.
Mr. Sheffield,
Yes, ma'am.
I can't see that spot.
All right. Yep. I'm going to get some help. I got it. My free leg has become too. I'm going to ask Mr. Rubin to stay in here and hold this for a moment.
35 years of practicing law.
This is what he's been reduced to. Hold the pole. I think what you said about these fibers, though, is that they were located kind of above a dent.
Yes.
Okay. You were asked whether or not it appeared that those things could have happened at the same time, meaning the dent and the fibers.
Yes.
You have zero evidence to suggest to you when that dent happened, right?
I believe Mr. Bryan said it wasn't there prior to this incident.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But you don't know when the dent was made
No, sir.
or when the fibers were made.
No, sir.
So it's hard for you to conclude that the dent and the fibers happened at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, you did do some print collection.
Yes.
Talked about that. I am actually going to need this, and I don't want you to have to stand up here. Let me use the gold one. Yeah. The prints that you collected, obviously you were told that there was some kind of interaction between Mr. Arbery and the truck, and so then you kind of focused in on whether or not you could determine whether there were usable latent prints on the truck, right?
Yes, sir.
Latent prints, we've learned a little bit about it, meaning left there on the surface, not sure who they belong to, but they're there for collection purposes.
Yes, sir.
Right? And one of the things that you can do with prints is as you look at them, you can try to begin to get an idea of how the hand was oriented when it touched the object, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Depending on if there's multiple parts of the hand leaving impressions on something, then you might be able to tell how the hand was oriented when it touched the object.
Yes.
Right? And in this case, you've got not only a kind of a palm print, but also a thumb print. You recall that?
Objection, Judge. Mr. Lowrey did not test the smudges in this case, so lack of personal knowledge to that.
He lifted the prints off the truck.
Not sure how to describe it. I mean, he said he lifted print. I've heard of palm print. Maybe we just need to clarify that. To make sure.
I'm asking him the
Yeah.
questions.
Could you repeat it, sir? I'm
Sure,
sorry.
I'll show you. Looking here at State's Exhibit 22006. Let's start with this one. This is State's Exhibit 201. As you lean into your monitor there, and you begin to see that there is a smudge here. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And can you see also that there is a smudge here?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you took it upon yourself to collect these smudges here and here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the first smudge is what appears to be a palm print.
Objection, Your Honor. He did not test these smudges to see what they were.
Have you gotten the results back from the lab about what these are?
He can't speak to that, Your
I'm
Honor.
just asking if you got the results back.
Go ahead.
You gotten the results back from the lab of what it is?
Yeah, but I don't remember what they were. I think there was no match on either of them.
Oh. Did you say that you collected a palm print?
I don't know.
You haven't testified that you collected a palm print from the truck?
I might have, sir. I've been up here a while. I don't remember what I said.
Okay, fair enough. All right, but it was your understanding that these could be prints from Mr. Arbery, which is why you collected them?
Yes.
Okay. And in looking at this now, or when you were collecting it then, did you have any kind of thought as to what that might be?
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance about what he thought it might be. It was tested at some point.
So we'll take the picture for a reason. You can explain why.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Mr. Sheffield, I thought it was some sort of palm just because it was bigger than
Okay.
fingerprints would be.
And then you took a collection of this because you thought it was
A digit of some sort.
some kind of a digit, right? Okay. Are you at any point trying to do an analysis of how that, we'll call it a suspected palm print and suspected digit got there? Are you trying to come to figure that out in any way?
Yeah, just trying to look at it while it was there and processing it, but the only way I could, I guess, envision would be something like hand upside down, but I'm not a fingerprint expert.
Yeah.
That's just my own imagination at face value looking at it while I was there.
All right. It's possible, or it's consistent, is it not, with your experience in collecting these types of things, that this could be a palm print and that could be, let's say, a thumbprint.
Objection to asked and answered, Your Honor.
Well, I'm talking about the orientation.
I understand. So overruled.
It could be, yes.
It could be, right? It could be that if this is the door jamb here, that the hand is like this. That's a consistent explanation. That's one explanation.
I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
The larger print on the side, it looks like it's up much higher than that. I don't think it would be upright. But again, though, I'm speculating at this. That's not.
Okay, well, we're trying to get into your mind as you're trying to figure this all out.
Yeah.
Okay, but at least it could be its own independent print of a digit.
It could be.
Including a thumb.
Yes.
Okay. This is a closer picture of it. This is 206. Again, do you see that where we were talking about what we think might be a palm print, and then this right here, what could be a digit print?
Yes.
See it there in that one too? Okay. Did you notice when you were examining the truck, I'm going to show you again 201.
Okay.
You can look real close at it, and maybe I'll do this. Let me bring the photograph to you. You could look closely at 201, right up here at this part of the door. I want you to take a look at it and put it back.
Okay.
Do you see what could be smudges up there as well?
I do.
Did you fingerprint or print those?
I don't remember the specific sections that I printed. If I saw it and knew it was there, I collected it.
Okay.
But I can't remember specifically if I took anything from that pillar. I think that might have been one of the photos.
You think that might be one? How
Yeah.
can you be sure whether or not you collected that or not?
I think on the fingerprint cards, it would have had sort of a legend, like a map on the car where it would have been collected.
You created those fingerprint cards?
I didn't create them. I just filled them out.
That's what I meant.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, you manufacture the paper and press it and do all that stuff. All right, but this is what we're talking about here. Are these smudges?
Yes.
Okay. So if you collected it, then it should be documented somewhere.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. And the information that I believe that you had in terms of making this potentially relevant to your investigation is you were testifying, I think, earlier that Mr. Bryan was saying that Mr. Arbery was coming for his door.
Yes.
Actually, on page 18, lines 10 through 13, do you still have your transcript?
It's on the corner of the table there.
Is this it right here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, page 18 there for you. He's kind of describing this moment to you right?
Yes.
He says, I probably got past him a little bit, and he comes up on me, right? And I could see him in my mirror, and he was coming for the door. Is that what he says?
Can you give me the line number you were
I
reading
think
that
it's
from?
10 through 13.
Okay.
I probably got
Yes.
past him a little.
Yes, that's what he says.
He's coming up on me.
Yes.
He was coming for the door, and I seen his hands on right behind the door, right?
Yes.
So this informs you that these prints that we just looked at could be highly relevant to
Yes.
his claim that Mr. Arbery was trying to get into his truck.
Yes.
Did you check for prints on the other side of the truck?
I think I did a walk over it, but that was the side that Mr. Bryan indicated to me that contact was made, so I kind of focused my efforts there.
Okay. I want to ask you again, do you recall whether or not you had ever decided that that one finger smudge that we think could be a finger smudge was actually a thumbprint? Do you recall having that opinion or thinking that?
I don't recall.
Oh. Sorry. So refresh your memory with this document, see if
Okay.
it does. And what I'd like for you to do, thank you for stepping down.
No problem.
Is see if this refreshes your memory as the lead agent in the case about whether or not you were working to determine if that was a right thumbprint. And I want you to read it. I don't want to.
Okay.
Yeah, to see if that clarifies anything in your memory.
Yeah.
Don't read it.
Okay.
Just see if it refreshes your memory to see whether or not you were considering that that could be a thumbprint or a right thumbprint
yes.
specifically.
Yes.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that you considered is that this print next to this, what we could think is a palm print, could actually be the right thumb of Mr. Ahmaud Arbery.
Based on that,
If it refreshes your memory that that is what you were considering.
that wasn't mine. That was just someone else's suggestion that completed that.
I got it. But
Yeah.
you're the lead investigator, so one of the things that we're working through
Yes,
is
sir.
that you consider that could be his.
Objection, Your Honor. He just said that that was not his report, that was someone else's.
It was just used to
So no
refresh.
personal knowledge.
Did you finish your question?
Yeah, that as part of you being the lead investigator, and so I'm going to backtrack to help make it relevant, that you are relying on others to do work
Yes.
that comes back to you.
Yes.
Okay? And in the inquiry about whether or not this could be the right thumbprint, you said, I don't recall.
Yes.
I showed you a document to see if it refreshes your memory that that is a subject that you were thinking and considering. Has it refreshed your memory?
Yes.
And did you consider that that was the right thumbprint of Ahmaud Arbery?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Yes, sir.
I think you already gone. Okay. Let me just get my stuff out of the way.
Any reiterate?
Just briefly, Judge. So that report that was just shown to you, Mr. Lowry, whose report was that?
That was Investigator Lowther's.
Did you play any role in authoring that report at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so the findings in that report, were they your findings at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay, whose findings were they?
Christopher Lowther.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. You're released for the day, but you are subject to recall.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, sir.
So I'm ready to move forward, but I also don't want to. That's fine. I don't want to cut a witness off too badly. So, does the state have another available witness?
Yes, I believe, I have actually two, and I think they'll both be short enough. Well, I'm crossing my fingers. And I think they're going to be short enough for the hour.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and state's next witness.
We will call Miss Kellie Parr.
I'm not sure where it went.
It was under the bar there.
Mr. Rubin, I was going to tell you to remember not to lock your knees if you're going to stand there too long.
Remember to pass out.
There you go.
Apparently the witnesses are on the other side of the courthouse. Okay. Maybe if we could get somebody to go and check and move the process along. There we go.
truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead and proceed.
Can I take this off?
Yes.
All right, please state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Kellie Parr, Kellieparr.
All right. And please give us the name of your parents.
Randall and Ann Parr.
All right. And are you familiar with the location of 232 Satilla Drive?
Very familiar. I grew up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hate to ask you, but what years were you there when you grew up?
Oh, no. Let's see. 69 through 85? 86? Yeah.
All right. So about 85, 86, you left the family home.
To go to college, right?
All right. Did your parents leave at that time?
No. No, they've been there, well, they were there for about 50 years.
Okay. When did they eventually sell the house and move out?
Let's see, July, was that 2019 or 20? Oh gosh, I guess I need to think about that.
Oh, was it during the pandemic or before the pandemic?
Good question. It was during, so it was 2020. That's it.
All right. So you still live in Brunswick, Lynn County?
I do, St. Simon's.
All right. And I'm going to direct your attention specifically into the fall of 2019 into the first 2 months of 2020. How often would you go over to your parents' house at 232 Satilla Drive?
Usually about once a week, usually on Sundays. Afternoon, we'd stay until 7 or 8 sometimes.
Now, specifically, when you say we, who are you talking about?
Me and my son, my 16-year-old son. Mm-hmm.
And were your parents at this time living alone, just the two of them, at 232 Satilla Drive?
Yes.
All right, so I am going to direct your attention specifically to February 23rd of 2020, that particular Sunday. Were you at 232 Satilla Drive that day?
I was not there that day.
All right. And had you been at the house previous to that, like in the week or two beforehand?
Most likely. Like I said, we usually would go there about once a week on Sundays, so most likely.
All right. So prior to February 23rd of 2020, was there a bullet hole in your parents' front window?
No, definitely not.
All right. Now, on that particular day of February 23rd, 2020, were you talking to your dad on the phone?
I was. And I guess the reason I know that I was not out there, well, for obvious reasons, but also my son's birthday was 2 days later. We made plans to see them Tuesday instead of Sunday. So, yes, I was talking to him on the phone, and he was telling me about what he was seeing out the window. And during the conversation, he said, "Oh my God, there's a hole in the window. It's cracked." And so he kind of was shocked and then hung up and said, "I'll call you back." So, yeah.
Did you ever get over there to see the hole in the window eventually?
Eventually, I think maybe a week later or a few days later, I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly.
Okay. So prior to you coming in to testify, you and I have met, we've talked.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. And did you get to review some photos of the house?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to show you what's already been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 105. What is the jury looking at here, State's Exhibit 105?
That's my parents' house, or formerly my parents' house.
All right. So when we're looking at 106, is that the address right there?
232 Satilla Drive, right.
What's the jury looking at there?
That's also the front of my parents' house.
And then was this the window?
If-
The window that your father was talking to you about?
Right, that's the one at the far end, the left side of the house as you're looking at it, yeah.
This one or this one?
I believe it was the one on the end there. Yeah, that one, the left one. I think that's the right one.
Now, when we take a look at State's Exhibit 114,
Mm-hmm.
and we see this right here, Had that hole been there before?
No.
Now, when you're over on Sunday, where do you and your son and your parents generally congregate?
We usually stay in the back of the house in the family room because there's glass doors back there. It looks over the river, so we spend most of the time back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever any time here in this front room?
Sometimes we would go in that room. I play music, I play guitar and sing, and my mom does too. So sometimes we would go in that room and sing and play so Dad could watch the TV and we wouldn't bother him.
Right. So what I want to ask you now is, at some point in time prior to February 23rd of 2020, do you recall ever seeing a young man at the construction site that's on the way to your parents' house?
Yes, I do recall that. I'm not exactly sure when it was, if it was maybe December or January. I'm not really sure exactly when it was, but I do remember driving by, and I believe it was a Sunday, as usual, afternoon. It was still light outside, and I looked over and I saw someone in the door frame. There wasn't a door there, and he was just standing in the door frame, and we just kind of looked at each other as I drove by.
And was this young man white, black, Asian, or Hispanic?
He was a black man. He was very tall. You want me to keep going?
Well,
describe him?
Sure, go ahead and give the jury description.
He, from what I remember, he had I guess they were like basketball shorts on, and I believe high top sneakers and a t-shirt. And yeah, he looked very tall. I remember thinking that because of the door frame, where the location of it over his head.
Do you remember what kind of hair he had?
Hair, I don't remember exactly. I think it was fairly short, maybe a little, I guess, medium length. It's fuzzy, but yeah.
So you were driving your car.
Mm-hmm.
It was still light out.
Right.
Okay. Any idea what time? I mean, you're talking January, December?
Yeah. It was so it probably was getting darker at that time, so it must have been maybe 4 or 5, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still light out.
Still light out. Yeah, not real bright, but it was definitely light out.
Okay. Now, to kind of pin this down, do you remember if it was before Christmas or after Christmas?
That's a good question. I wish I could remember, but I'm just not totally sure. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Most likely after Christmas, but I feel like it was late December, early January. I'm not totally sure.
Okay. And I'm going to show you 126. Would that help with where
Yeah.
you were standing?
Right. It was in that door on the right side there, I believe. Yeah.
I'm going to go and put it up there so we can.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
All right, so let's look at States 126. So I'm just going to point. Was it this door?
Right, that door right there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you drove by, did you make eye contact with him?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any waving or saying hi or anything?
No.
Okay.
I remember having a dialogue in my head. Should I tell you about that? Like, just what I thought. I thought I was driving by and I thought, what is he doing in there? And then I thought, no, Kelly, don't be racist. He's probably working on the house. And then I thought, well, no, he doesn't have a tool belt on. So I wonder what he's doing there. Just the whole thing. So we were just looking at each other and I wasn't really sure. And I just, kept driving. So, but that was like a split second thought process in my head, like 1 or 2 seconds. So, yeah, but no real. He didn't hide or anything. He was just looking at me. So. Okay,
so tell me about that. So his reaction, he makes eye contact with you. What does he do?
Yeah, he just looks at me.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like I guess I could have waved, but I didn't.
Did he try and duck inside?
No, just looking. Yeah.
Did he run away?
No.
Just stood there.
Just stood there. Mm-hmm.
And you were interviewed, I just want to make sure, on May 7th, 2020. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
All right. One question? A moment? I'm going to go ahead and pass you over to the defense attorneys. They may have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Parr.
Hi.
Ms. Parr, my name is Bob Rubin, and I represent Travis McMichael. As I understand it, your parents, do they still live in Satilla Shores?
No, they sold their house in July 2020
And moved to Florida?
to Jacksonville.
Okay. But you grew up there, at least for a good number of years, and
I
then
did.
went off to college and eventually came back to Glenn County and lived
Right.
on the island.
Right, exactly.
But you would go check on your parents, celebrate anniversaries, birthdays,
Right.
holidays, and then just make sure that their general welfare was good.
Right, exactly.
Very close with your parents. How long did they live in Satilla Shores before they moved to Florida?
I believe it was about 50 years. It's a long time.
So they're getting up there in age by 2020 in their 80s.
Right, exactly.
And there came a point where they and you were concerned about crime in the neighborhood.
They had told me a few things had happened, recently or before that, previous to that time,
Previous to February 23rd,
Right,
2020.
right.
And as their daughter, I assume that concerned you as well.
It did, yeah.
Did you ask them to install any surveillance cameras or alarm system or anything like that?
They did actually have an alarm system. They didn't have cameras, but they did have an alarm system that they had been in disrepair for a long time. And then I think maybe 6 months before this happened, they did start it up again. So yeah.
Okay. And that made you feel better as their daughter?
Sure, absolutely.
So when you would go visit them over the preceding, let's say from February 23rd, 2020 back 12 months, you would go during the evening and then you would go in the daytime, depending on why you were going.
Most of the time it would be in the afternoon, and then we would stay into the early evening.
Okay.
Usually.
And you'd be there, and sometimes you'd be inside celebrating with them or hanging out with them. Sometimes you'd be outside enjoying the weather,
Right,
going for a walk
exactly.
with them, I assume. You have children,
I do. I have one son.
so sharing your son with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Odd
Yeah.
way to phrase
Yeah.
that. During the times that you were there in Satilla Shores at their house, walking around the neighborhood, would it be fair to say that you never saw Ahmaud Arbery jogging in the neighborhood?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think so.
And when you were interviewed by, I believe it was agents Hamilton and Carnes back in May, if you had seen Mr. Arbery prior to February 23rd, you would have told them.
Well, I did see him. I think it was him in the house, but I didn't. Yeah, right. I would have said.
You would have said, I saw him jogging.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So the one time that you did see him happened to be this one time in late December and January in the afternoon,
Right.
right? And you saw a man standing in the door frame without the door at 220 Satilla Drive.
Right.
No tool belt.
Yep.
No reason you could discern from looking at him why he would be in an empty house
Right.
that was under construction.
Right. I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. In fact, you checked yourself, but it did cross your mind of
Yeah.
why is this guy in that house
Right. Right.
on was it a
It was-
weekend?
I think it was a Sunday,
Sunday
so that's
afternoon.
why I was kind of questioning it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you checked yourself and wanted to make sure
No
you
big
weren't
deal.
stereotyping or doing
Exactly. Exactly.
anything. Got it. Did you talk to your parents about that you saw this man in the house?
I don't think I did. I think I just really drove away thinking, no big deal, I don't think so.
But you were aware of their concerns not only about crime in the neighborhood, but specifically about break-ins at Mr. English's house.
Okay, let me think about that. I'm trying to think if it was specific to that house, what I had heard. I think I just had heard that it was just general things being stolen. I'm trying to think of when I actually found out about the things at that house being stolen. That's a good question. I think it was more just a general, there had been some things stolen in the neighborhood that made me concerned. I don't know that it was specific to that house.
So at the time you drove by in December, January, you personally were not aware of items being stolen from Mr. English's house?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know it's a long time
I'm
ago.
trying to answer as truthfully as I can. I'm just trying to remember.
I understand.
Yeah.
Did you at some point, I believe it was in June of 2020, meet with Mr. Lee Wilson? He's got a mask on. Maybe you can pick that up for a second.
Yeah.
It was on the phone. Did
What
you
would
have
that,
a
okay, I was
telephone-
going to say, what would that be in reference to?
In reference to this case, did you have a
Right.
telephone conversation with Mr.
wow.
Wilson? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. I know
Yeah.
you're trying.
Sorry.
When you learned about this case and the shooting incident on February 23rd, did you reach out to the Glenn County Police to tell them that you saw a man you were pretty certain was Ahmaud Arbery at that house?
I don't think I reached out. I do think somebody did call me and ask me about that, though. Now that you're saying, I think I remember talking to somebody about it, but I don't think I reached out to anybody. I think they called me because I think they talked to my dad.
Who said talk to Kellie?
Right, who just said call me. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Parr. That's all I had, Your Honor.
Thank you, other defendants.
No, Your Honor.
Can you redirect from the state?
None from the state.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Is she also subject to recall?
Yes, everyone's subject to
Everyone's subject to recall. All right. And you can, you're free to leave. You are subject to recall, though.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
From the state.
And this time the state will call Ms. Cara Richardson.
Richardson?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead, proceed.
Okay.
All right, please state your name and spell it for the record.
Cara Richardson, CARARICHARDSON.
All right, and how are you currently employed?
I'm the director at the Glen Brunswick 911 Center.
All right, what does the Glen Brunswick 911 Center do?
So we process all, we're responsible, we're the primary, well, actually the only PSAP, which is public safety answering point for Glen County. So all 911 calls go through us. And we do all, public safety dispatching as well.
Okay, so what's the difference between public safety dispatching and all the 911 calls that come in?
So the calls are processed by, well, there's a myriad of technology that makes the calls come to us, but essentially we have call takers and we have dispatchers. So we have call takers that process the calls that are inbound and dispatchers that will send the appropriate response out.
Okay, so that I'm clear. If I'm the 911 operator, I'm taking the call for somebody who's calling in for an emergency, right?
Right.
Am I also at that time sort of typing in stuff into the report, or am I dictating it to somebody else, or how's this work?
Right. So we don't do an actual report. We do a record of call, which is, it's a public record of an inbound call. And the police officers or fire department, the respective agencies will do a report based off of the audio, their observations, and the notes in these calls. So yes, that's what happens.
So say someone calls in, is someone typing this in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the dispatcher person, are they the one who's now going, hey, EMS, you need to go here, or fire, you need to go there?
Sometimes, if we're busy. If we're busy, everybody can answer the radio, the phone and or the radio, but we try to keep the respective, particularly the police dispatchers, off the phones. But if we have an accident on 995 or something like that where we get inundated with calls, anybody can be answering that and directing responders at the same time.
Gotcha. And you oversee this entire process?
Yes.
All right. Are you also the custodian of record for these records generated from the 911 call center?
Yes.
And within the 911 call center, how many people generally work a shift, like a daytime shift?
We have to have a minimum of 6 on the floor, but we typically have between 6 and 8.
And as part of the record keeping in the normal course of business for the Glen Brunswick 911 Center, do you keep both the written record as well as the audio file?
We do.
All right. And the audio file is basically what? The 911 caller and the person receiving the call?
Correct. We also have audio files of radio traffic that we keep on record as well.
All right. So prior to coming to court today, have we met?
We have.
All right. And have we also kind of gone over the relevant 911 calls that were given to the GBI in regard to the investigation into the homicide of Ahmaud Arbery?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And if you had the opportunity to review those calls as well as review the CAD reports?
Yes, ma'am.
And any extractions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's go ahead and at this time, for expediency's sake, the state is going to tender State's Exhibit 141 and 142, the 911 call from February 23rd, 2020, made by Matt Albenze.
Which one is, I'm sorry, just which one this is?
Sure. 141 and 142, 141 being the audio call for 911 for Matt Albenze on February 23rd, 2020, and 142 being the associated CAD report.
Got it. No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Next, the state will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 144, being the 911 call by Greg McMichael from February 23rd, 2020, and the associated CAD report 145, 911 CAD report for Greg McMichael. In addition, State's Exhibit 146, the sequential export extraction from that CAD report.
No objection.
Objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
The state will tender into evidence as State's Exhibit 147, the 911 call made by Greg McMichael from July 13th of 2019, along with 148, the associated CAD report.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
The state will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 149, 150, and 151. The 911 call by Larry English from October 25th, 2019, parts 1 and 2, along with the associated CAD report at 151.
149 and 150 are the two call on 1025.
Correct.
Okay. No objection.
151 being
No objection.
No objection.
They're admitted.
State will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 153, 154, and 155, being the 911 calls from Larry English from November 17th of 2019, along with the associated CAD report, State's Exhibit 156.
Oh, I got you. 156 is 3 calls. Got you. Okay, no objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
The state will tender into evidence at State's Exhibit 157, the 911 call by Larry English from November 18th, 2019, along with the associated CAD report, 158.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
The state will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 159 and the associated CAD report at 160 of the 911 call by Larry English from December 1st, 2019.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
And the state will tender in at State's Exhibit 161, the 911 call by Travis McMichael from January 1st of 2020, and 162, the associated CAD report.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
In addition, the state will tender into evidence at State's 163, the 911 call by Travis McMichael from February 11th, 2020, and the associated CAD report as State's Exhibit 164.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Admitted.
All right, so, Ms. Richardson, if I live in Brunswick and or Glenn County and I call 911, how does it get to you?
If you call from a most of our calls are now wireless. It'll hit off of a tower, and it's supposed to route you to the appropriate PSAP. So if you live on the county line, there is a chance sometimes that you might hit Camden, but for the most part, they're routed as they should be.
All right, so if somebody is a tourist and they're out on St. Simon's Island and they want to dial 911 for something in Savannah, that's not going to work, right?
It doesn't work that way.
Okay, they're going to get 911 here in St. Simon's and or Glenn County.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, is there also a non-emergency line that can be called in order to get to basically the police to report something?
There is.
Right? And so if someone were to call that non-emergency line, would they go to the exact same dispatch location?
It depends if they're calling the 3645 number, which is our primary non-emergency number because we are a separate entity. It will go directly to us. Some of the departments will forward their calls to us after hours, so it does get forwarded to us, but for the most part, they're going to be answering their own calls during normal, their non-emergency calls during normal work hours.
So somebody calls Brunswick PD just directly, but no one's there to pick up. It could get routed to you.
Right.
Right. Now, if somebody is, for instance, in Douglas, Georgia, okay, but they want to call about something that's happening in Glenn County, they call 911 in Douglas, they're going to get Douglas, right?
Correct.
So they need to call a non-emergency line to get to dispatch.
Right. And just to clarify, the only time that could happen is if you are on a VoIP, because VoIP will basically bring to 911 the location that you're registered at. So that's the only exception. And of course, landlines are a direct. They'll go directly to the PSAP, the respective PSAP.
All right. So if I'm on a landline and in my house in St. Simon's, that's just going to automatically tell you where I am, and that's where you're going to assume the emergency's at.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so first thing I want to go ahead and take a look at is going to be State's Exhibit. I'm going to have you look at 142 and 143. All right. Take a look at 143 and 142, and go ahead and tell us what the difference is between those two documents. Okay.
Okay, this is the computer. This is when we enter something into we're basically telling a story when we enter anything into CAD, which is their computer-aided dispatch, and it's a chronological story of events as we are told they're unfolding or happening. So this is a CAD report, and this is going to be the script that is annotated along with.
Can you list when you say this? What's the document number that you're referring to?
142, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Judge. So 142 is the story.
It is. And 143 is going to be, I can't remember the specific name of this, but this is what comes with when we download our audio from our, I'm sorry, our recorder.
Okay.
My apologies. Yeah.
That's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take States 142 and 143 back from you.
I don't know that has a technical name, but.
So what we've got, so the jury can kind of see this, is 142.
Sorry, Mr. McCaskey.
Sure.
You might get 143. I don't have it listed as new tender.
Oh, I apologize. If I failed to tender 143, the state will tender State's Exhibit 143 as the sequential export of the CAD report 142, being the recording from 141.
Yes, ma'am.
No objection.
So when we're looking here at the CAD report, we end up first with what right here? What is this, a call number? What is that?
That's your name. Oh, yes, this is the call number.
Okay. And then what's the nature?
The nature is suspicious person, activity, package,
Right.
all encompassing vehicle.
And then when we're looking down here, in this particular instance, what is the date we're looking at in State's Exhibit 142?
2/23 of 2020,
And then what is the time?
13/08/24.
Is that military time?
It is.
All right. And who is our caller?
Matt.
So when we then look down below, this is just something someone else typed in as they were speaking with Mr. Albenze.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So then when we look at 143, which is the export, does this give us the same date and time right here?
It does.
And then what's DUR?
The duration, I believe, that's the duration of the call.
All right. And then it says it came into Glenn County, Maine. What does that mean?
So that actually that didn't come from a 911 line, that came into our main line.
Right.
So our non-emergency line.
Non-emergency line.
Mm-hmm.
So then, directing your attention to stage 145. Stage 145, is that the exact same call number as the previous one as well? I'll put them up so that you can see them.
Please.
So, is that the exact same call number?
It is.
Okay. So, when two people end up calling in minutes apart, but it seems to be about the same incident, does it end up on the same CAD report?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Unless it's hard to determine if that in fact is the same incident that's going on.
So, for instance, you can have a mile apart two car wrecks that have
Yes.
nothing to do with each other.
Right.
Okay. But in this case, we have this combined CAD report.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so when we look at this and we go down here, we actually have right here, what are those words?
Another caller.
All right, so just so I know, this typing is related to this time and date?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then this typing would be related to that time and date?
Yes, ma'am.
And then another caller that would be related to this time and date?
Correct.
Okay, so I got a question for you here. This time and date says 13/15/48, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and it's being taken in by P. Parker. Who's that?
Philip Parker. He's one of our.
One of your 911 people.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, but when we look at State's Exhibit 146, all right, related to the specific phone call from Greg McMichael, what time do we actually have right there?
13/14/09.
All right, and what was the duration on that?
4 minutes 46 seconds.
Okay. Why is there a discrepancy showing this as a 13/14/09 call versus this one where it says another caller at 14/15/48?
Right. So I believe what happened, and again, they don't necessarily remember exactly what they do with the thousands of calls they process. But when that caller called in, he was naming that he was in a neighborhood. So we don't create a record of call. We can't really create a record of call without having a good idea of the location. And the location's got to go in and validate it along with the nature of call before that call is created. And I think what happened and what he believes happened is when he was trying to get where that was at, he realized, okay, this is related to this call. And so instead of going with that particular CAD event, he went ahead and put the information in the existing record of call.
Okay, so there was a time delay between the, hey, this is coming in at 13/14/09, and hey, I think it's related to this, so there's a later time when he actually types it in.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, but they got associated.
Correct.
At this time, the state is going to publish State's Exhibit 144.
Hello. 911, what's the address of emergency?
I'm right here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Satilla, where at Satilla Shores?
I don't know what street we're on. Stop right there! Is it? Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello, sir. Sir, where you at? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Stopping that at 1 minute. And the noises and voices we hear in the background and that dun dun dun, where's that from?
That's from inside the center.
Okay. Does anyone ever come back on the line in this call?
No, ma'am.
moving forward now to State's Exhibit 148 and 147. Let's take a look at 148. So what is our call number up here on State's Exhibit 148?
887230.
And what date do we have?
7/13 of 2019.
And what time?
18/14/10.
All right. And is this Mr. Parker taking this again?
It is.
And what address do we have making the 911 call?
230 Satilla Drive.
And who is the person calling?
Greg McMichael.
This time the state will publish 147.
Brunswick Communications, Operator 924. How may I assist you?
Hey, this is Greg McMichael. I'm a retired chief investigator with the DA's office. Is there anybody, supervisor available I might be able to speak to?
Sure, just a moment. And are you talking the dispatch supervisor or police supervisor?
Police supervisor, yeah. Anybody on duty be fine.
Okay.
I wanted to make an
Okay, and all right, and what was your name?
Greg McMichael.
Okay, and a contact number for you?
912-217-1726. They can call me back if
Okay, and your address, sir?
230 Satilla Drive. We've had a lot of break-ins in this area out here, automobile break-ins. And my son and I just discovered a guy. We think he may be living on the Bluff Creek Bridge on 17. We just went up there and made contact with him, real shady-looking fella. And he, possibility he may be the one that's been breaking into all these automobiles out there tonight. Just wanted to make somebody aware there was somebody living under there. Hello?
And you want to talk to the supervisor or any police officer?
Any police officer would be fine.
Okay, just I'll have somebody give you a call now. When they give you a call, it's going to come in as blocked unknown or unregistered, so be prepared to answer that, okay, at 912-217-1726.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Now, in regard to State's Exhibit 161 and 162. Looking at 162 right now. What is our call number?
989180.
And what is our date?
It is 1/1 of 2020,
What time?
11:05:39.
And what is the location of the call?
230 Satilla Drive.
And who's making the call?
Travis McMichael.
At this time, the state will publish State's Exhibit 161.
Brunswick Communications, operator 915.
Hey, yes, I need a police officer. I got a report of I need a report of stolen stuff.
You what, sir?
I need a police officer. I need to report a stolen pistol.
Okay, and what's the address it was stolen from?
230 Satilla Drive.
It's 230 Satilla Drive, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And your name?
Travis McMichael.
Phone number, Mr. McMichael?
912-423-1374.
What kind of gun was it, sir?
It was a Smith & Wesson M&P C9mm.
And when did it get stolen?
I'm assuming about an hour ago.
Okay, where was it when it got stolen?
It was in my truck. It was in my truck on the side of the road here.
Yes, sir. You see on the side of the road?
Yeah, right here at the house. Or actually in the barn, but
Do you have the serial number for it by any chance or paperwork on it?
I don't. I can get it tomorrow, but I don't have it right now. Oh man, I might have something somewhere around here, right in my gun safe. Where I might have it. I'll look for it when I go.
You say they took it today, or?
I'm pretty certain this was within an hour. My father missed my truck for me. He was out the truck for me. I came out an hour later, and the holster was sitting in my seat. So I made sure I basically. I'm pretty certain they stole it.
Yes, sir. And what kind of truck was it stolen out of?
A 2011 Ford F-150, regular gas.
You didn't take anything else out of your truck, sir?
No, ma'am.
And what color is the truck?
Red.
All right, I put it in for you so they have officer come out.
All right, I'll be out here with you.
Yes, sir.
All right, happy New Year.
Same to you, sir.
And then directing your attention to State's Exhibit 163 and 164. What is our call number?
1012164.
All right. And what date and time do we have?
1927-13 at February 11, 2020.
And what location?
220 Satilla Drive.
And who is making the phone call?
Travis McMichael.
And what is this address here?
That's the lat long that is affiliated with the phone, so he called 911 from a cell phone.
From his cell phone. All right. This time the state will publish State's Exhibit 163.
911. What's the address of your emergency?
Satilla Drive, 230 Satilla Drive.
What's going on?
We've had a string of burglaries. I was leaving the neighborhood, and I just caught a guy running into a house being built 2 houses down from me. When I turned around, he took off running into the house.
Okay. What did he look like?
It's a black male, red shirt, white shorts.
And you said the house was being built?
It's being built, yes ma'am. It's vacant right now. He is in the house.
What's your name and phone number, sir?
Travis McMichael, 912-423-1374.
All right. Where are you at now?
I am sitting right across the street in my truck, watching the house. Watching the house with it right now, right here at the
Okay. What kind of truck are you in?
Red Ford F-150.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah. It just startled me. When I turned around and saw him and backed up, he reached into his pocket and ran into the house. So I don't know if he's armed or not, but he looked like he was acting like he was. So, be mindful of that.
Okay. Which pocket did he reach into?
Left, I believe.
Okay. And now, so 230 is the vacant lot address?
It's my address.
It's your address?
It's probably
Okay.
228 or 226.
Might be 226.
Possibly.
How many houses down is it from yours?
It's 2 towards the highway. I guess he didn't realize we're here. He's got the damn lights on right now. He's got a flashlight going through the house.
Does he? Okay. You just stay where you're at so that the officers will know.
Will do.
Okay. And I'll stay on the line with you until they get there, just in case anything changes.
Roger that.
So you said he was a black male. Did he have hair on his head? Any other features you can tell me about?
I couldn't tell.
Okay.
He just looked like short hair.
Okay. Was he tall, short?
Yeah, he was tall, probably about 6 foot.
Okay.
There's the neighbors. I guess it's one of the other neighbors saw it. There's about 4 of us over here around it right now.
Okay. So what happened when you first saw him?
He tried to sneak behind a bush. He was coming through somebody's yard, and I looked back, and he was trying to sneak behind a bush. And when I drove on by, he got behind a portal that they had to it. And when I backed up, he looked at me. I went ahead and backed up to the road, and he reached in his pockets. I kind of watched him, and he ran off into the house, and then stepped back out and went back into the house, and that's when I called. call jail.
Okay.
But we've been having a lot of burglaries and break-ins around here lately, and I had a pistol stolen January 1st, actually. And, I've never seen this guy before in the neighborhood. We've been kind of keeping an eye, and, sure enough, there's one, through the yards, Cops. All right, please.
You see him?
Yep, they're pulling up, coming in hot.
Okay. You can go ahead and let me go, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Can we have one moment? I will go ahead and pass the witness.
Ms. Richardson,
Yes, ma'am.
as the custodian of records for the Public Safety Dispatch, and this may seem like an obvious question to you, is there any mechanism by which you collect or record phone calls that people make directly to officers?
There is not.
And are you aware of officers who give out their cell phone numbers to members of different bakers, residents in those different patrol areas?
No, ma'am, I'm not aware.
Okay, so there isn't anything. If an individual were not to call the regular Glynn County PD number, non-emergency, or 911, those phone calls would not be collected in any place that you care for.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Anything for the additional defendants?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Any redirect on that form?
No objection.
All right. All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Is she subject to recall?
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, you're free to go today. You are subject to recall.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're at a good breaking point for the day. So we're going to go ahead and recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. During the break, again, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You're probably going to start saying it with me soon, right? Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anybody else. Don't go looking for any information about the case. If anybody approaches you about the case, please notify the court immediately upon your return to the court, and we'll see whether that needs to be addressed. So again, don't go looking for any information. Don't go picking up newspapers or news feeds or social media or whatever it is that may be out there. With those instructions, and again, all of the instructions I've given you, thank you again for your service today. It is appreciated. You're free to go, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
All right, for the jury. Please be seated.
Anything from the state before we recess?
No, just a scheduling update for the court if the court would like one.
Okay, let me get around real quick. Anything from the from Travis McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
From Gregory McMichael?
No, Your Honor.
From Mr. Bryan?
I take it none of the jurors had an issue with Veterans Day? Then we have nothing.
All right, scheduling from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe that we will I know this is going to be hard to believe. We have a stipulation, and it's in writing and signed by everyone, which we will publish first thing tomorrow morning, and then segue into, I believe, Larry English's deposition. We have reviewed the timing on the deposition. It is in 3 separate videos, but it totals about 3 hours and 45 minutes. So I wanted the court to be aware of that. Mr. Camarillo will be handling that, and what we're probably going to do is have him seated more here because he needs to be able to put up the evidence at the same time on the split screen for the jury, and we've coordinated that as well. So that's, I just wanted the court to be aware. That's why he's probably going to move his chair up and sit here, and that we'll see how that that day goes with our technology tomorrow. And I just wanted the court to be aware of that lengthy deposition presentation.
So we start in the middle. Sounds like we'll have to break probably in the middle of it for lunch. But
It's my understanding, Your Honor, that when Mr. Camarillo plays the video, plays the 911 calls, we have a transcript for the jurors for each of those calls. There's 5 or 6 calls, I guess. These are transcripts created by the District Attorney's Office that we've all read and reviewed and agreed upon. I'm just asking the court, what's the best way to...
I'm trying to think. Normally I charge juries on transcripts, and I'll tell you the charge and see if it fits. Normally, and again, this is just generally, so I'll run through it. Some of it may not apply. At this time, so I'm going to have to probably give them the charge before we get into it, but at some point during the deposition, you're going to hear a recorded statement. In this case, the only recorded statement we're talking about are the 911 calls. Okay. This is proper evidence for you to consider. Please listen to it very carefully. I'm going to allow you to have a transcript of the recording. So are we actually giving them a transcript of the recording?
Yes, we made 20 copies.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to have a transcript of the recording prepared by the state.
I think it's a joint exhibit.
Okay. Maybe I'll go. Let me just get through this. Let's just generate it. To help you identify speakers and as a guide to help you listen to the recording. If you believe at any point that the transcript says something different from what you hear on the recording, remember it is the recording that is the evidence, not the transcript. At any time there is a variation between the recording and the transcript, you must be guided solely by what you hear on the recording and not by what you see in the transcript. Please do, and please do not read ahead. That's generally the charge I give them. I'll tailor that. If there's no objection to using that, I'll go ahead and give that to them.
No objection from the state.
I have no objection.
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Let's tailor that in the morning then. Okay.
I don't think there's anything else.
Do we have any idea of what we're doing for the rest of the afternoon?
I'll let you all talk about it if you want to talk about it.
We'll figure it out.
Is the court planning to start discussing the charge issues at any point this week?
I don't know where we are with the evidence. I have not made that plan yet, no. We're still preparing a draft charge, and the court's still working on everything that was given to the court.
Well, one of the reasons I'm asking is because I'm anticipating that by the end of the week we're going to be doing motions for directed verdict. And
I'm not going to talk about the schedule. I don't need to talk about the schedule on the record at this point. Depending on where we are towards the end of the week, I may ask the state where we are. But at this point, just to be clear, still in the presentation of evidence. I understood that it would take at least a week, possibly 2, for the state to get its evidence up. I've got a draft charge that I'm working on and will continue to do so. So any insight I can get, but at this point I need to start putting on the record where we are with the evidence and what we're expecting time-wise. I'm not sure that that's necessary at this point. All right. Thank you, everybody. Based on all of that, then, we are in recess. We will reconvene at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Have a good evening.